Right, here we go. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Rugby Abroad podcast. This is going to be a truly Rugby Abroad style podcast. I'm sitting here hosting from Northern Italy, and on the line with me today is an old school friend of mine and absolute rugby legend at the moment, William Magie. Will, how you doing, mate? I hear you're over in Texas at the moment, just living at large.
Yeah, good to have me on, Catsy. Thank you very much. It's been a long time. In Texas, social distancing, but things are starting to reopen, which is exciting.
You mentioned you have a little puppy. Is that a euphemism or?
No, little puppy. I got him last week. I wanted a dog when I was in America my first time for 4 years or so, but it just wasn't like the right time.
Yeah.
I got a little chocolate lab called Luke.
Wow, mate, really nice.
Yeah, he's asleep, and I'm enjoying the downtime.
I can imagine. Mate, great to get you on. Look, I don't know if you've seen the podcast about. For me, this is just more of a catch up. Like we've been playing rugby for a good few years. We played rugby in our first 15 together at school. I remember a very significant time for me when you stole my 10 shirt, but but it's normal. You were a great talent coming through the ranks, and mate, just it's a different kind of journey that I guess we've both taken, and I just wanted to get your view really on what really made you move abroad for your rugby in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we were kind of similar in a way as well when we were at school. Is that like we obviously both played rugby, but we also played like a lot of other sports. And I guess both of us sort of didn't really crack it at like the academy level in England. I guess like I was too small, you were probably too big. Now and that's why you moved out to 12 anyway. And then like,
Bulldozer, didn't they call me back in the day?
Yeah, I still think you and Greg has had the most successful rangy run in the history of rugby.
I think we could have played internationally, just the three of us, at any level.
Yeah. No, so like went to uni obviously after school, and then sort of enjoyed playing rugby there, and then sort of finished up in Leeds, and then thought, right, I need to get a job now, and still tried to play a bit. And so I was playing with Ealing in the Championship their first year up there, and was doing it part-time while working in London. It was pretty tough. Like, and
was that why you were on a placement year or something like that?
Yeah, I was on like a graduate scheme with L'Oreal.
Okay.
So it was like you're like gymming like first thing in the morning, and then like 3 nights a week you're training until like late at night, and it's just like brutal. Like semi-professional rugby is super tough.
Yeah.
But I'd always said to my parents that if rugby ever went professional in the US, I'd sort of drop everything, go to sort of give myself the best chance of playing internationally, because I'd obviously played in the age group stuff when we were at school together, but you kind of fall off the radar unless you're in the country playing.
Yeah.
And I obviously had US citizenship through my parents. So yeah, that's sort of kind of how it came about. So that was my decision to go, was the fact that the US had started its first professional league, which was a one and done failure, but nevertheless got me over there. So
yeah, no, mate, that's awesome. I mean, look, you obviously had it in your mind, the idea to potentially move if the opportunity came up, rather than maybe if something that you were like pursuing as an option, like 100%. But I mean, it's an interesting story. You were saying like both of us really didn't like crack it at the academy level, and I think that's quite an interesting one, because it kind of proves to me. I mean, I haven't mentioned it yet, but you're obviously a USA international, and you've just been to a Rugby World Cup. So we're talking about someone that didn't crack it at the academy level, playing at the top level on the world stage, and it kind of seems to me like that there's something not quite right potentially about the way things are set up in the UK with the academy system. It's clearly some guys are slipping through the net, and I don't know what your thoughts are on that, whether that's a thing.
Mate, 100%. Like, and there's so much stuff at the moment about academies in England, about how it's all about size at a young age, and obviously guys that develop differently and stuff. Like, I think when I was at uni playing for Leeds first against Loughborough, when I made my debut, I was like 68 kilos when I came on. Like, just like tiny. So,
yeah.
And then, but there's so many examples, even just with my Leeds uni team. We had Tom Francis, who's now almost a 50 cap test player for Wales, Alex Lazowski, who's a few caps for England, Saracen stalwart now, like European Cup winner. So there's like three of us in a 2-year span at Leeds that none of us played academy rugby like properly in like a senior academy. Went down a non-traditional route with uni, enjoyed ourselves, and lucky enough to have now played international rugby, which is pretty cool. So I definitely think there's something wrong with the English academy system.
Yeah, I mean, just from my own experience doing something similar, I remember, because I played with Lazowski, your mate in, both our mates really, in the England student setup. He was a couple of years younger than me, but I mean, I think maybe these are all guys that sort of took a different path, went to university, got their degree, maybe guys that were thinking about, well, if I don't make it, I've got something to fall back on. I've got a degree. I've got prospects for maybe getting a job after a crack at rugby or something like that. And maybe 8 or 9 of that team now are playing regular Premiership rugby, and a fair few of them have played internationally. So I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I think I said it first anyway, that guys are slipping through the net, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see which way they go. I can't see the systems changing in any way, and unfortunately, I don't know what you think, but I was just going to say that. The way I mentioned it in the previous episode, that the championship, the way it's being funded, and it's just reducing the incentives further for guys like myself or yourself who might have had that option to step up at an earlier age. It's just reducing that incentive. So what do you reckon is going to happen from that point of view?
Mate, and I 100% agree, because I left to go after when Rugby went professional, left to go and play in the US. Played for 4 years in Colorado for, previously the Glendale Raptors, now the Colorado Raptors. Yeah. And after the World Cup, I was like, I've done that now. Like, I've achieved that. I want to actually get back to London and see if I can actually play properly in the championship, and like maybe give it a year or two, and then look if I can potentially even springboard up. But the whole premise of that was that it was full-time rugby. As soon as the championship announced the funding cuts, London Scottish called us in and said, we're going to go part-time next year. And that obviously sends alarm bells ringing along with a lot of the other teams. So now there's basically 2 mini leagues in the championship where half of them are full-time and they're going to be smoking these teams that are part-time, right, in my opinion. And then that's sort of how I've ended up back out in Texas, because it was an avenue to carry on playing full-time professional rugby. Because
just to go back on that like, You moved abroad and then kind of cracked your way back into the championship, which is a great thing. You must have been absolutely buzzing with that. I know that was the case with me as well. I moved out to Spain. I played a couple of years there, and you kind of get a chance to sort of show yourself at not the level of the championship, but you're still in a higher than a semi-professional environment. You're pushing yourself. You're sort of a leader within a team, and do you think that helped you get that opportunity back in the championship at London Scottish? Yeah, definitely.
I think at the time, now MLR's at a level that teams would start looking at players, especially if you have a UK passport, if you sort of to go overseas. But at the time, it just being in that full-time environment in Glendale allowed me to then push myself to progress it to the international level. And then once you've obviously played at that level and you can put some footage together if you're playing against like top teams in the world, like Ireland, Samoa, Scotland, like these teams, that then that's going to obviously attract you a lot more. And the fact that I had UK passport as well means that I was a non-EQP player, but not a foreign player. So so the restrictions are much less on you there. So
yeah, and I guess your feeling is when you and mine certainly was, when you crack that first championship contract, certainly one that is acceptable to you, maybe is something that you've seen championship offers before, but like at quite a base level, and they maybe weren't interesting or whatever. And then once you crack that one that you say, okay, maybe this is my stepping stone now, and you're at that level where the championship might, if you have enough games in the championship, maybe you'll get the bounce up to the Premiership, and then suddenly swipe from under you. See you later.
Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, that's true.
I was just going to say, have a lot of guys done the same? Have they moved on to new things or so quickly like you?
I think I think I'm very fortunate in the fact that because again I have a US passport, they were mid-season here in the MLR. As soon as that happened, I had teams reaching out to me to say, "Well, we've seen that news. Like, are you interested in coming back to the MLR?" So for me, it was a no-brainer because I could come straight away. But for other boys, and there are lots of boys and lots of my close mates from London Scottish who are trying to get out into the MLR now, but it's just so much more difficult because they'd have to go through the whole visa application process. And now the fact that COVID's obviously come in and that's going to like obviously have an impact on immigration and everything going on. So it's going to be super tough. So I'm very fortunate in the fact that US passport could just jump on a plane and go. And obviously I was very thankful to the guys at London Scottish as well that they sort of saw that I wanted to be playing professionally full time in order to carry on playing internationally. Because you have to play internationally, you have to be able to devote yourself full time to it. Like, it can't be something where you're doing a school coaching gig, but then training 2 or 3 nights a week or working in the city. It's just, you don't have enough time for your body to recover, to fuel your body correctly, train, sleep, etc., etc. You're just doing too many things. So they were super, super cool with it. Got on the first flight basically out to Austin, played 1 game, pandemic, season over.
Cheers, thanks for coming. Lockdown, get me a puppy because I need some company.
Exactly.
No, mate, I get it. It's a shame that the season ended like that, but I guess you've put yourself in quite a good position for going forward. You're now kind of where you want to be in terms of location, especially for pursuing that international career.
Yeah, it was a shame though, because like it was really the 5-6 months I was back in London was so cool because I've gone abroad. At that sort of stage in our lives where you're like 23 to 27, where no matter where you are in the world, everyone's sort of just cracking on with their careers and they haven't got loads of times on their hand, like they're out for work drinks or whatever. Whereas I got back to London, 28, like a lot of my mates are there, settled down. It was so cool to just be around them, to just like Tuesday night, or like let's go for dinner in the city, you know. And then all of a sudden, like I had to then backtrack and like sort of put my career first and what I wanted to do, and I still want to play international rugby. So
totally.
It was tough. It was pretty tough.
Speaking of the international rugby, I mentioned it before. You've been to a Rugby World Cup. That's absolutely huge. Tell us a bit about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was an absolutely amazing experience. Just like the whole build up was incredible. Like I've never spent that amount of time with that many guys for so long. Like we assembled, I think, end of June, and we came back to. We got together end of June, and we finished up mid-October, and we were probably together for the entire time, other than 10 days we had off. So it was an amazing experience. Obviously, Japan. Everyone knows what an amazing World Cup they hosted, and it had it all. You know, like amazing games of rugby, drama with the weather. Like everything, the food was absolutely incredible, and on a personal level, like obviously that's the dream, you know, like it's the highest level you can potentially play at. I was fortunate enough to get on against France for a couple of minutes at the end, but I had to be pretty realistic, knowing that our best player, potentially the best player who's ever played for the US, AJ McGinty, was the 10 ahead of me, and the fact that Will Hooley was starting fullback and could cover 10. That meant my opportunities would be quite limited, and I was realistic enough to know that. But while we were out there, just trying to put everything on the training pitch for the team so that they were prepared well enough. And unfortunately, we did come up short. But I'm pretty confident in the coaches that they'll have learned a lot of lessons. So going into this next 4-year cycle, and whenever we can start playing international rugby again, we'll be a lot better for it. And I'd like to think most of the squad will be around for France 2023.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough mindset going into a World Cup, knowing that probably you're not going to get as many chances as you can, but just give everything for the team, especially obviously at your age. You'd think at that age you'd be one of the leaders, especially in your position as a fly half as well. You'd probably be one of the leaders in that team. So I know from personal experience that's a hard place to be in when you're not playing all the time, or certainly starting. So no, I mean, how does that affect your approach to like training and team meetings and stuff like that?
Yeah, and obviously, like as the 10, you in your club side when you're the starting 10, you know how to act, and I just think it's about what you can do, what's best for the team. You know, I think I remember watching something like TJ Perinara said, where it was his dad talking to him, and he was like, "Look, if you're starting 9, be the best starting 9 in the world. If you're on the bench, be the best impact player in the world. If you're not in the squad, be the best trainer in the world." You know, so you've got to kind of just take that mindset. So I had a big role to play, obviously as a 10, and you know yourself, like reading, understanding the game. So scouting, obviously, what England, France, Argentina, Tonga were trying to do in their attack and their defensive shapes and how we were going to attack them. And obviously, once I knew, okay, I'm not involved in this England game, right? I can't actually do anything on the field to affect that game. I can train hard and get the boys ready, but I'm going to switch my focus to France. What can I look at? What can France do?
As a fly-off, you might have stepped in to training and you are Owen Farrell for that training session.
Exactly. Well, you're trying to be. I was bloody trying to be George Ford and think he's slightly more skillful than I am. But yeah, exactly that. So Greg McWilliams and Jacques Ferrier, our attack and defence coach, would say, okay, look, try and run these patterns, or like these are some tendencies. Obviously, we only have 5-6 days in between games, so it's potentially only 1 or 2 sessions. But like, you know, England, we know that they play a lot of front door, back door sort of stuff. So let's try and bring that into our game and stuff. And obviously it can get frustrating because our team, we don't have potentially calls or structures to run that as accurate as possible. And you're just trying to throw it together and wing it. So yeah, it can get frustrating, but you know you're doing it for the betterment of the team. So
Definitely. And okay, cool. So the World Cup, best experience of your life, or any out there?
For sure. I'd say that, along with as a whole experience, yes, hands down. Best rugby experience was starting against Ireland at the Aviva, packed Aviva, 55,000 people. Adge was unfortunately injured. Started, played 80.
Unfortunately.
Started, played 80. We got humped, but it was pretty cool. It was close. I think it was 19-12 at half time. And it was the week after they'd beaten the All Blacks. So it was pretty cool experience. And just Ireland, like for us growing up, you know, like we watch the Six Nations, we see the president of Ireland coming out on the pitch and shaking everyone's hands, listening to Ireland's call, you know, like all that sort of stuff. To have actually like done that, shook his hand,
amazing.
Listen to the, you know, it's just like you can't beat that as a like an on-field experience.
Yeah, totally. Right. So getting back from the World Cup, you obviously got this opportunity with London Scottish. How did the professionalism of the championship, specifically London Scottish, compare to the professionalism which you had with your USA squad?
I'd say that in terms of the USA squad, it's probably still slightly more professional, just at that international level. Just because you're obviously handpicking the best players, best professionals, whereas a lot of the guys in maybe the championship squads are a bit younger and haven't been professionals for that long, or may not know how to act. But the professionalism of the setup of London Scottish was a lot greater to the setup we had for our MLR team in Colorado, just in terms of weekly scheduling, the physio care, the facility. The Scottish boys are lucky enough, last year to train at the Lensbury, which is where the England Sevens train. So it's like a world-class facility. So just in terms of like the off-field stuff and like maybe training numbers and training standard, the championship in that experience was slightly better than Colorado. But that being said, I know that some of the MLR teams definitely next year are going to be comparable to sort of Premiership in terms of
so that's what I was going to say to you now, is that you made the decision quickly to go back to the States, and it seems like year on year you're seeing online and you're seeing highlights of games, and it seems like that the league, the MLR, is just increasing like exponentially in quality, and you just see some really physical guys in peak condition like battling it out in that league, and you're just like, well, there must be some serious professional setups involved in the preparation for that level. And obviously you think about American sport as a whole, and just the potential there is just absolutely huge.
Yeah, I mean, at Colorado, we had an amazing setup, high performance gym where the US would use quite a lot. Down here in Austin as well. Obviously, our owners are quite heavily involved with F45, so in terms of gyms and facilities, they're one of the best in the business, you know. So it's actually a really, really cool setup here in Austin. So it's amazing. They've taken basically an old factory warehouse almost and turned it into a professional rugby setup, whereas like at the back is this huge gym, like first class F45 facilities, TVs on the walls, and then you've got players team room, you've got all the coaches room, kitchen, but like it's kind of like the American dream, you know. They've taken just a warehouse and they've turned it into a professional rugby facility, which is super cool. And then they've got plans to so we play our home games at the Circuit of the Americas, which is the F1, the USA Grand Prix track. And we play in the soccer stadium inside that track. And they've got plans to build a huge state-of-the-art rugby purpose facility just outside of that. So in the next couple of years, Austin's base will probably move down a bit closer to central Austin, which is really exciting.
Awesome, mate. Just an observation. It seems to me like your like professional rugby career has like fallen on you in terms of like it wasn't necessary. It seems to me due to your like perseverance of continuing on with the game and not really giving up on the dream too early, that you've like had your success and being open to opportunities as well. Obviously, there's a lot of guys maybe in similar positions to what we were in, coming out of school or going to university, thinking that maybe they haven't had the shot or haven't had an opportunity to show themselves at a higher level. What would be your advice about sort of continuing on and keeping your head high, like regardless of the setbacks? Because it's obviously proven that you can, maybe taking a different route, you can still get to wherever you want to be.
I definitely think so. And if you're lucky enough, like myself, to have a passport that allows you to go to maybe an emerging nation where they have a professional league, which will allow you to devote yourself full time to it while still earning enough money that you can live. Because I think that's quite the key. And that's what's really sad about the Championship folding. Because if I've got mates who are in the Championship straight out of uni who have probably been earning between maybe 15 and 25 grand for best part of like 3 or 4 years. And if you're doing that and you don't crack it, because probably like maybe 15 players go from the Championship to the Premiership a year, and of them most of them exactly, and most of them become just squad players. So it's so tough, and to just be making that little amount of money when potentially you've got mates who are working in London who are earning 5-6 times that, you're potentially going to get left behind. So obviously there's a lot of perseverance, but it's also having the ability to actually be realistic with it, go somewhere where you can play, where you can earn money.
That's right.
In a full-time environment, then it sort of balances it out.
Yeah, for me, it's exactly what you say. It's kind of, you got to be in a position to think outside the box a little bit and maybe be a bit open to, well, this is if you want to continue playing and being well compensated for it and create a lifestyle out of it as well.
But then also England has such a good semi-professional setup as well. So that might be, like there's some unbelievable players in National One, in England that could easily play higher levels, but as you think of like the Richmonds, the Rosalind Parks, these boys are working proper jobs in the city and getting paid good money to play rugby, and that's what they're happy with. And professional rugby is definitely not for everyone, even if they have the talent. You think of like someone like Cinders, who we played with at school. Like he was easily talented enough, but he was in an academy and he was with Farrell and those boys, but he probably just burnt out because it was he hated it by the time we were playing in upper sixth,
Yeah. So maybe that's part of the issue as well, is getting these boys and like pounding them with academy sessions week in, week out, maybe 3 sessions a week, plus their school training, plus their club training on the weekend. You arrive at sort of 18, 19 years old, and you're kind of, like you say, burnt out. You've not got the same desire you had before. So maybe that puts us, for not having been in that scenario, at maybe an advantage or a bit of extra drive. Maybe I know that the university rugby scene in itself is like kind of specially suited for those guys who to push on with a bit of extra drive, and it's a really good level to then show yourself to potential professional rugby suitors. But there's not that many guys again that will sign from university teams straight to a championship team, for example.
Yeah,
Did you coming out of university sign a sort of professional contract?
I mean, it was a play to pay or pay to play contract.
Yeah.
So it was like it was with Ealing. It was, you got your expenses paid for. You got some discounts on gym and not gym, on like nutrition and protein and stuff.
Yeah.
And you got 250 quid a game, you know, and like
Okay.
I played 3 games. So it was like 750 quid professional contract, if you can call it that.
Yeah, no, that's tough. That's a tough gig. Like, because it's the time, like you say, when you're finishing uni, you think, I certainly did. I wanted a championship contract. That's like that's the dream to then push on to the next level. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get what you want, or if you get a taste of it, like you did, but nothing arrives that really compensates you to what you feel maybe is at least a minimum level that you're going to like
livable.
Yeah, exactly. Like you say, guys that I know guys as well in the championship earning like 15k for 3-4 years, and it's just like, I mean, yes, there's a certain point that you've got to say to yourself, well, is it worth it for the love of the game? If you're playing championship rugby, surely your mind's got to be open to, and like we said before, think outside the box and maybe go to another country that's going to compensate you better. And also, not just that, you're going to have a life experience out of it. And I guess
100%.
What my idea around this podcast is talking to guys like yourself who have had this different life experience via rugby, and having maybe not cracked it at home, and just showing that like guys like yourself and myself, there's a different path and a different road to take that maybe which is maybe just as fulfilling.
I think, and that's the part of it, like moving to America was like, I was so excited. Like, this was 2016. I was just so excited. And then the morning came, I was flying. We'd been out the night before, so probably quite emotional. And I just like went into my housemate. It was living in Clapham at the time. Went into my housemate's room and just burst into tears. I was like, "What the heck? What am I doing? Like, I'm leaving all my mates behind. I don't know anyone in Denver." And then because obviously we spoke before this, but there has to be a type of personality where you are willing to do that. You know, like you have to be brave enough to like go and start afresh and go for the experience. And if you go for 6 to 8 months and you don't enjoy it, well, you know, you can always probably come back to what you were doing before. And I think that's the most amazing thing. But I don't think anyone's probably ever had a bad experience when they've actually gone and devoted themselves to it. And then the other part that I'd say to it is, it's obviously a lot easier if you're single, if you're not leaving someone, a long distance relationship or anything like that, because then you're trying to be in 2 places at once, and that's just sort of never going to work out, in my opinion. So I'd say I was fortunate that I was single at the time. Probably not fortunate that I'm still single 4 years later, but
surely Texas is coming to your doorstep at the moment, isn't it?
I'll let you, when me and the puppy get out, once the pandemic's over, I'll let you know, Katsy.
Surely puppy on Instagram is an absolute goer, isn't it?
Yeah, but we're in lockdown, mate. So, you know, you've got a strict social distancing.
Yeah. No, I mean, here in Italy, we're just coming out of the old lockdown, so it's quite weird. But you're by the law required to wear the masks and gloves and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's going to be the case in Texas. But what if the girls can't see your face?
They'll just use the dog. Probably better looking anyway. But then, another thing to go back, I was very close to actually signing in Italy as well a couple of years ago on the back of sort of playing abroad, and I had an offer from Padova, and I thought long and hard about it, and I just decided that it was probably still best just to stay in the US. But it's so cool that like you've also been able to play there, France, Spain, Jersey.
Yeah. Germany.
You played in Germany?
No, I didn't. I'm joking. I thought you said Germany. I thought I heard Germany.
No, I said Jersey.
Jersey, okay. Yeah, I guess Jersey counts. Yeah, exactly. No, it's something I enjoyed doing. I think you mentioned before that maybe a particular personality or someone just open to the idea of traveling a bit. And yeah, I think obviously the opportunity's got to come at the right time. Like you said, you had an offer from Italy, you seriously consider it, but there's other personalities might just it might not even enter their mind to take an opportunity like that or even look for one. So yeah, I guess it's been a great journey. I've been in like 4 different countries over the last 5-6 years, and yeah, you pick up some strings to your bow. You learn different cultures, different languages, and as you say, like being in different parts of America, I'm sure you're seeing different cultures in terms of when you're at Denver and compared to where you're in Austin now.
Definitely.
Is there a big difference?
There is, like, I mean, it's probably more like political and stuff like that, and anything, weather-wise as well. But like, I've been fortunate. Denver and Austin are the 2 most desirable cities to live in America at the moment. So I've been pretty fortunate that a lot of people want to live there. But also for me, my family moved back to the US a couple of years before I moved out here. So even though I'm still 3-4 hour flight away, it's still nice that you're on the similar time zones and they can come to games for a lot cheaper and whatnot. And my cousins and aunts and uncles and stuff like that have all been able to come watch as well, which is awesome. So there's a nice aspect to that as well. Awesome.
And going forward, what's your hopes for the MLR?
Now, my hopes for the MLR is that obviously the product on the pitch continues to grow. But I'd be lying to say if I wasn't wary of the fact that at the moment the way that the way it's going is potentially too many international imports coming into the league. So at the moment you're allowed 10. You can buy and trade slots off other teams. So I think you can have up to 12, but then another team might drop down to 8 or whatever. But there's no restrictions on how many of those players can be actually on the field. So if you've got 12 out of 15 on the field that are not even US qualified, are we actually growing? I know it's easy for me to say because I have a US passport, even though I played the majority of my rugby in England growing up, but I'm still contributing by giving back by playing for the national team, you know? But we just got to be like Japan had the same thing 10, 15 years ago where they just got loads and loads of imports in. And obviously the standard gets better slowly over time. And now they slowly culled that back down to however many it is now. I think it's like 3 or 2 or 3 on the pitch at a time for each team. So hopefully the MLR guys know what they're doing and they are looking to grow the game of US rugby, not just a professional league in US rugby.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It's certainly what's been going on in Europe for the last few years. Since about 6 years ago when I was in Spain, I think they'd experienced all the problems that come with only teams being dominated by foreign imports and teams getting into financial problems because of that, but also just the reduction of maybe the level of your local boys. It doesn't quite work, I think in the way that you expect it to. If you have too many foreign players, I think when you have the right amount, maybe 6 or 7 in a squad, something like that, I think that's when those guys who are bringing this higher level can impart their knowledge maybe and help the other players out.
Yeah,
and
I'd say as well it's about like what type of person they are as well. You know, so like if people are listening to us and thinking about going and playing abroad, have like more than just being a rugby player. Like, what can you give back to that local community wherever you are, like in Spain, Italy, France, US? Like, have you got coaching qualifications Germany, Romania, Bucharest? No, like can you offer like more than just on a Saturday afternoon playing on the pitch? Can you go out and help develop rugby in high schools or primary schools? You know, and like especially for countries where the natural instinct, like obviously in Spain or Italy, is to go out and kids are picking up a football. Same here with an American football. You know, like that's the battle, is to try and slowly change that. Which is slowly but surely happening, so it's exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Is it something you see on the ground level in the US? Because obviously rugby, it's always been the conversation. Whenever you talk about rugby in the US, people say, yeah, but American football, basketball, you're never going to replace them. But then I get the feeling over the last few years that there's like more of an interest. There's more people interested in watching. What are like the crowds like? Because obviously not to like over exaggerate anything, but like just flat out, what are they like? Are they at a level that you would think, oh, okay, yeah, no, this is all right. We get good interest. The matches we play are well supported.
I mean, so probably the best supported teams right now would be San Diego, Seattle. Seattle sold out every game for the last 2 years, which is about 4,500 people.
Oh wow!
San Diego potentially a few more, but maybe not fully sold out, but maybe close to 6,000. I know that the final between those two teams last year, I think there was like 6,500 people at San Diego Stadium. So that's obviously the top end. At Glendale, for the 4 years I was there, we probably were around 2,500, 3,000, but that's pretty consistent and a pretty loyal fan base. So I think the cool thing is that you start small, you build an interest. Like if you can sell out tickets, that means there's an interest for people going. So obviously you can charge higher ticket prices if you wanted, but then when you go to a bigger stadium, so they just say you make the step from a 4,000 to a 10,000 seater, you can get pretty close to selling that 10,000 seater out. Whereas if you just start with going straight into a 20,000 seat soccer stadium and there's 1,500 people there, it's a bit pointless because there's no atmosphere. There's no I remember the games I was most excited for was playing Seattle away because it's going to be hostile. They're going to be booing you when you're kicking. It's loud, but that's what you want. You don't want to be playing in a big stadium where there's no one there because the field's nice, but at the end of the day, it's all about the atmosphere.
Exactly, mate. I can only make the comparison between that and playing in the Championship, and this is such an interesting thing because you've got what is really a pinnacle of, or not quite the pinnacle. It's not the Premiership, but the Championships is the dream for a lot of young players to make that then step up to the Premiership, and you go and when you get your Championship contract, to say you're underwhelmed by the sort of people that come and support matches. I'm not obviously there are clubs have a lot of great loyal supporters, and you feel that on match day absolutely. And there's nothing in any way against any of those loyal fans, but having played in France in the Pro D2 out there and getting similar crowds to what you were talking about in the States, there's crazy. A different feeling that you really feel it's part of the professional experience, I think, and it seems a shame to me that there's not more investment going into the Championship to make it this sort of, to commercialize it a bit more, give clubs more of a reason to bring crowds in and stuff like that. Instead, for years now, it's just being left behind. I don't know what your feeling was when you were at Scottish, whether because I remember going around the Championship. I played a game for Jersey against London Irish in the Magie Stadium, and literally you could have had 300 or 400 people there or something like that, and maybe a few tumbleweeds as well. And I mean, obviously it's great to play in a nice stadium against an amazing team with a great setup, but at the end of the day, it doesn't give you the same buzz as it would to play, like you say, in front of 3,000 or 4,000 people 100%. On a weekly basis. Well,
I mean, I'd think of the last few games I played. We played Jersey away in the worst conditions imaginable, but great atmosphere because it was packed. It was just before Christmas, and Jersey has a very strong support. And then post-Christmas, we played Newcastle at Kingston Park, which kind of was the best of both because it was a nice day, great field, great stadium, and it was pretty packed as well. So that was cool. But then the last two games, you're playing Ampthill, 50-mile-an-hour winds. I'm not even kidding. You couldn't even pass the ball. We played 28 phases out of our own 22 because you couldn't even think about kicking it. By the time you drop the ball, it's blown behind you on top of a hill in a field. And then the week after, you play Yorkshire, who Headingley's an amazing stadium, and when the Rhinos play there, it's packed out. But there was probably 75 people there, and you're just like, what on earth are we doing? There's just no there's no. I get your point in terms of when you're playing with the Pro D2 and the crowds, you feel the crowds are invested. And then on the back of that, you feel that you have an obligation then as a professional player to go and perform a lot more so than if you feel that no one really cares. Yeah. And obviously that's pressure, but that's what we sort of thrive on, You want that pressure to perform.
I think that's why anyone becomes a professional sportsman anyway, because that's what they thrive in. The pressure's there for that reason. Mate, I think we've had a great conversation. Episode 3 is going to be an absolute hit. I'm 100% sure, and this is episode 3, by the way. You look quite confused, but I just want to round up what we've been talking about, and I just comparing both our journeys. we've come from kind of similar places, come a long way since first 15 with Mr. Greenaway at Merchant Taylors, and I believe Kobus, the South African, legend, Kobus Bizagi.
Who did we have? Do we have Alan Dickens, who's now the England under-20s coach as well? He did some good stuff for us. Yeah. I bumped into him because we train against England 20s, and I bumped into him, which was quite cool.
Oh, unbelievable.
But come a long way since Taylor's.
Come a long way since then, and I guess it's been a hell of a journey for on both sides, but particularly for yourself. I mean, ending up in a World Cup, that's something not many people can say they've done, and the way you're going only seems to be from strength to strength. So amazing what you're doing. What's the next step for you? I just asked you about the MLR, but for yourself, what's your kind of objective?
Yeah, so I've got another year here in Austin signed up for, so that's exciting. Nice to have like a bit of security, obviously, at the end of all of this madness. And then few options really, like US are pushing me quite hard to go into refereeing. So they kind of want someone that's played at the highest level to then go and potentially look to go on like the refereeing circuit, because they just don't have anyone.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm probably leaning a bit more towards coaching, so maybe look to pick up a sort of a player coach role in the next couple of years, hopefully still in Austin or somewhere else, maybe in the MLR. And just sort of stick with it. I obviously love rugby, picked up a bit of knowledge on my journey, and just looking forward to what's next. But for now, just keep playing and hopefully get a few more caps for the US and just make some more memories, yeah.
How many caps are you on?
I think 26, maybe 27, I'm not sure.
Mate, come on, you've got to know that. I'll tell you now. 26. Wikipedia says 26.
26, there you go.
How's that for being prepared?
True.
Mate, I massively appreciate your time. It's great to catch up after all these years, and I'm glad your rugby abroad journey, sponsored, is going superbly well, and I wish you all the best for the future, my man.
Cheers, Katsy. You too, brother. Look forward to catching up when we're both in the same country.
Nice one, my man. Cheers.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Take care.
Thanks, dude. You can subscribe to the podcast at rugbyabroad.com. Thanks for listening in, and I hope you join me for the journey.